Today on Happy on Purpose, we're stepping into the world of conscious creation and higher level clarity with someone who lives it and breathes it. My guest, Angie Tumlinson, is a science of the mind integration expert and natural laws specialist who helps people make decisions from a higher spiritual perspective, not the fear-based hurry-up noise we all get trapped in. Her work blends spiritual wisdom with practical application, giving people the tools to elevate their lives in real, lasting ways. She's collaborated with some of the most influential mindset coaches and spiritual leaders of our time, and she's built a reputation for helping people shift out of overwhelm and into deep alignment. As she turns off her laptop because she's a busy lady and it's dinging. Angie, welcome to Happy on Purpose.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for being so accommodating.
Well, that's life, and you're doing the dual Thanksgivings and dual birthdays, and that's the messiness of life, right? I think that's why this is such a good time to have this conversation, because this is where we have to walk our own walks.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
So we're probably just going to dive in because we only have 30 minutes, which seems like a long time, but it really isn't when you're just having a good conversation. So for someone hearing your title, Science of the Mind Integration Expert, for the first time, like, what does that actually mean in layman's or real life terms?
It comes down to having a conscious awareness of what's happening. We have these things called paradigms.
Yes.
And paradigms are just a multitude of habits and behaviors that we have. And this is where we're sort of operating on autopilot. Mm-hmm. So for instance, my whole family came up this week to celebrate American Thanksgiving. And it's really easy for me to go back into the mindset of I'm the oldest sister and I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and to just go into this mode of who I think I know I'm supposed to be.
Yep.
And yet I am also a business owner and a coach and, a mother of 3. And, so I can go right back into this caring mode of the adult, of the firstborn adult girl. Or I can step back and say, I'm participating just like everyone else. Either I'm going to control it or I'm just going to be. So it's, my habit will want to jump in and control everything, but my conscious awareness is we are a family, we are a community. Yes. I don't need to control everything. I have adult children, my God. Exactly. I have adult children, but I treat them like, they're still 7, and 9 and 11. And they're not. They're, 31, 27, 20, 25. So to have this conscious awareness where you're living in choice, rather than just living by habit.
Right.
And I think one of the things is learning to live it rather than just talk about it.
Agreed.
I think there's lots of people that have a lot of right answers to a lot of things, and they can spout it off, the rhetoric.
Yeah.
You hear it. But what really counts is when you're living it in the moment.
When it gets messy and real.
When it gets messy.
To not slip back. Mm-hmm. When I hear you say that, I think of the stories we tell ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. A good mother does this, a good wife does this, mm-hmm. a good daughter does this. And when we get out of that good girl thing, it's like, I'm just a human trying to do my best here. Like, and all the old stories and roles and labels that get stuck on us through the days. Yeah, I can completely relate.
Yeah, like I'll give you just another quick example. I was thinking of this, especially having adult girls, adult women. I shouldn't call them girls. They're adult women. I want to treat them like girls, but they're not.
Right.
So when they're helping out or they're doing something to help out, it's really easy for me to always be in the teacher mode. I'm helping you, and they're looking for that approval, and it's really easy to step into that. Mm-hmm. And then you walk into this trap of I am their mother and I'm here to tell them what to do, when actually they're getting their own independence, and they'll slip and go back into their child of asking when they know the answer.
Yep.
And I'll go back into my habit of controlling, and I don't need to, where I can say, that's fine. If it was my best neighbor here, I would treat them way better than I do my own loving daughters. So I've had to look at them and say, they're adults. You would never want to criticize your neighbor like that, but yet you'll do it to family. So this is where I really think real life meets. It really is where you take the information that we've been given over, especially the last 5 years. We've
Mm,
really dove into, um, a lot of information,
absolutely.
on how to treat people and aware of self and trauma and all that kind of stuff. But then when it comes down to the moment, we don't know how to live it. And
Yeah.
so this is where the science and integration of mind comes in. It's where
Okay.
you learn to live it.
Yeah.
And you got to do it in the simple things of life, not the big things in life. You got to learn to do it in the simple first.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes me think of the phrase spiritual bypass. I heard that recently and I was like, oh, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
And then I started saying this almost annoyingly
Mhm.
is to know and to not do is to not
Yeah.
know. So if we're saying, well, I know that already.
Yeah.
But you're not, that's why I love the word integration. And
Mhm.
that's what really stood out to me about your work is we still have to be human. There's still the messiness. I think Jack Kornfield said, what do you do doing the laundry after you've done your spiritual retreat? Like
Right.
you're just back in life, right? So how do we make it all come together? I think that's what's powerful about your
Yeah.
work. It's not just knowledge.
No, I think people know better, but they don't do better. So
Yeah.
there is this gap. And one of my really great mentors that I first started working with, his name was Bob Proctor. And
Bob
many
Proctor.
people probably
Yeah,
heard of
yeah,
him. Yeah.
yeah. Lots of
So
books, lots of audio.
lots.
Back in the day, cassettes, right?
Yes,
Dating
yes.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to work with him for several
Oh,
years. And
amazing.
one of the first things that I learned from him is that people know better, but they don't know how to do better. So they have a knowing doing gap.
Yes.
And this knowing doing gap that we have, we live on three planes simultaneously. We live in a spiritual plane, which is our imagination
Yeah.
and where we see things in the future, how we would like it to be, idealism. And then we live in the intellectual, how we do things, how we think through it, how we,
Yeah.
our perception of things. And then we live on the physical level, how it is, the manifestation of everything in
Mhm.
the 3D world. And this is where, by the time it gets into the 3D world, it is on several levels the densest thing to try and move. It's
Mm,
like this table. This table is solid
right.
wood. And so to try and say that this is something else or imagine this to be something else, it's in its densest form right now.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we're dealing with, like, let's say family, sometimes the habits that we have are the densest things. They're the hardest things to change when
Mm,
they need to take place in not only the intellectual but the spiritual part of ourselves. And we sometimes leave that out of the room. And that's where you need to bring it in intentionally and
right.
say, how would I love to have this experience? Not what am I going to react to when I get there? Like, people almost create the problem because they think I'm going to get, I'm thinking about family because we're
Yes.
moving
Yeah.
into that era right now of going into holidays and stuff. And people are already anticipating and having um, already dreams of when my mom says this or when my sister says this,
Yeah.
I'm going to be ready to answer it. And you're already putting your mind, your spiritualness, you're already
Yeah.
putting your spirituality and your intellect already to work, that you've already created the densest form. When you walk into the room,
I
it's
love
already
it.
set.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those rigid rules that
Yeah.
we, buy into. I mean, even thinking about the table, we know it's atoms. We
Hmm.
know there's
Yeah.
energy holding it all together. We know
Yeah.
that to be true,
Mhm.
but we only see the table
Yep.
on the first glance.
On the first glance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize, and this is why I think, like quantum physics, you hear a lot of people talk about, you know, neuroscience and quantum physics for the mind. And it's sort of like the last frontier to
Mm,
really be explored really right now, because there's so much of it that's in thought, and we don't understand how our neural pathways have really made dense thoughts.
tracks.
Yeah, tracks. And
Yes.
how do you start practicing before you get there how you want it to be,
Yeah.
and you learn not to react. And what happens is we get into playing old stories, and then we're just right back on that track. So it takes intentional living, like
Yeah.
real intentional living. It doesn't matter what the other person is doing, not your business. What matters is how you react or respond to the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that reactive rather than, there's a saying that I'm trying to think, being proactive rather than reactive.
Reactive. Yeah.
But even that sometimes creates a narrative
Yeah.
already,
Yeah.
right?
Already.
I feel like what I'm feeling in my body when you're
Mhm.
talking is it's just staying in that realness of what is,
Yeah.
and going into it with an open heart and mind and
Yeah.
space to say, well, maybe my sister isn't going to act like a
Yeah.
you know what this time,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
mom's not going to throw the turkey out the window when dad acts like a I mean, the holiday seasons are majorly stressful,
They're very
so this is
stressful.
actually really good timing for
Mhm.
us to do this
Yeah.
interview coming up,
Mhm.
because there's all this expectation on what it's supposed to look like. Well, what if we just didn't? And
Yeah.
somebody's got to make that first step, I
Yeah.
feel, right,
Yeah.
of doing something a little different.
Yeah.
And in my world, as a counselor, the counseling world, I would say it's like someone snips somebody off
Mhm.
of the mobile.
Mhm.
Everybody has got to recalibrate.
Yes.
So there's really that awkward time, but it takes one person
Yeah.
to just want to do it a little better,
Yeah.
is what I hear.
Yeah. If I've always been the one that's sort of planned everything or done everything, and now I'm learning to hand that off,
Yeah.
then I've got to be able to hand it off. So this year, there were lots of things where I had my sister and my sister-in-law. They
Yeah.
came in and said, "We're going to do these meals," because there was 13 of us.
Well, yeah.
So we're going to do these meals, and I stopped cooking a while ago, and my husband does it all now because I spend most of my time doing this. But um, they still look to me for answers, even though I haven't done it for years. They're still like, "What do you think?" And "What do you
Mom,
think?"
yeah,
And
approval base.
approval. And
Yeah.
it's like, this is great. And I'm grateful for it. And, also some of the little things come back of woundedness when they were little. And they'd say,
Yeah.
remember this, remember when you did this. And it's really easy to just say, I did my best.
Yeah. You
And
wait till you have
yeah,
kids and you'll know. And off to the bathroom to cry.
yeah,
Fix yourself
yep,
and come out.
yep. And I have had times where I went out on the deck and just grounded myself again and
Yeah.
said, everyone loves one another. We're all trying to find our way. And when you have understanding of the other one, that's when you begin to understand yourself better.
Yeah, I hear that.
It's when you don't have understanding of yourself, you will not have understanding of another. So when somebody has a woundedness or brings up something that's wounding, it's good to say, I hear you. I
Yeah.
know that probably was tough, even though everything inside of me says, how dare you? Do
Yeah.
you know how hard I
It's
work? And do you know what I have
I've
to
sacrificed
do?
everything for
Sacrifice.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's being able to step back. I think it's good to step out for a moment, let
Mm,
what's happening just happen and be okay with the messiness. Just let it happen and just say,
yeah.
I appreciate you saying that. Go outside, get yourself grounded, or you're in your room or something and get yourself grounded. Take a
Mm,
deep breath, say everyone's trying to do their best and come back in. It's when we feel we have to defend ourselves. That's when
right.
we're back in the story.
In the paradigm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're back in the
Needing to
paradigm.
make that
Yeah.
shift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, it's such good work you do.
Yeah.
So getting into the beginning stages for you,
Mm-hmm.
what was the turning point in your own life
Oh, yeah.
where you started to look for this type of work, specifically the natural laws or the higher level decision making? Because I feel like we all get that little frickin' pebble,
Mm-hmm.
or we get the knock up against the
Yep.
head, and it's usually disease, burnout, stress, illness, divorce,
Yep.
like whatever.
Yep.
So maybe how did you even find yourself doing this work?
Theirs was called an emotional impact that will shift a paradigm.
Okay.
And so there's two ways to shift a paradigm. One is through what's called an emotional impact. So my emotional impact started in 2007.
Okay.
And the emotional impact was my dad, who was 61. I have a very close family. And my dad was killed by a train. It was just an accident. Just
Yeah.
an accident. My mother was 59. I'm going to be 59 next year. So it's really playing out for me in
sure.
many ways. But my dad was killed by a train, and that threw me for a loop.
It would.
And it was just an accident. And what I found was I had this connection with my dad that he would, even though I probably never spoke it, it was never spoken,
Mm,
but he was safety and assurance. So if anything was going to go wrong, I always knew I could go to my dad.
right.
And that was missing. And I couldn't figure out what was happening. It was like the floor dropped out from underneath me, and every
Mm-hmm.
situation I didn't have that same feeling with my husband. And
It's
I
totally different.
yeah, it's
It is
totally different.
different.
It's
Yeah, they're
totally
a
different.
protector,
Yeah.
right? Your dad, yeah.
So uh, it took me a while to figure out something was missing. And then 5 years later, my mom got cancer, I think just dealing with grief and a lot of
Yeah.
things. And she passed away at 66. So here are my parents who were never sick. My dad was gone and my mom was gone in their 60s. And I just thought they were what tethered me to the
Yeah.
earth and tethered me to ideas and everything, and they're gone. And so now I'm the oldest and I feel like the youngest. I mean, I was just not doing well. And I knew I needed to change. I owned a restaurant here in town in Vernon,
Mm-hmm.
and I went back in there and I couldn't do it. I had panic attacks, and
Yeah.
my husband said, "Go home until you feel better." And 4 months later, I wasn't
Still
getting
didn't feel
better.
better.
No. So he said, "Well, you've got to do something." And I got involved in a network marketing company, which I wanted community. That's what I really wanted.
Mm,
And that didn't turn out so well for me either. Although I met great people,
yes.
but some of the practices that were happening, I don't think were really good for somebody in my state of mind. So I ended up needing, because one thing in network marketing they say is that it's we're going to coach you, we're going to help you. Well,
Mm,
no, they had a agenda.
yeah.
So it wasn't about me, it was about them, and they talked about personal development, and I just I felt very lost. And so I went looking for someone, and Bob Proctor showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started studying with him, and immediately, and it I have to tell you, I'd never invested in my personal development ever.
Right.
And I
Very
learned
common.
I learned a big difference. And I think this is
Mm,
where the coaching community right now is in clarity. Let's use that term,
okay.
clarity. Because coaching, there's two kinds of coaching. There is professional development,
Mm-hmm.
which is learning about something, and then personal development, which is living
Right.
something.
Okay.
So we have lots of people that go to courses or whatever, and they learn something. And so we got a lot of knowledge. We know better,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't do better. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where personal development, I work with lots of people who have certificates and all kinds of things,
Yeah.
and they know the information, they know their stuff, but they aren't able to live it.
Yeah.
And so I saw this gap within myself. And so when I started studying with Bob, the first thing he asked me was, "What do you want?" And I had been, of course, working in Vernon, working very hard. We had
Yeah.
2 storefront businesses, and my husband and I were working, 10 to 12 hours
For
every
sure.
day,
Easily.
raising 3 kids. We got lots of awards and accolades, and very well loved. I mean, I
Yeah.
felt like I was part of the
Yes.
community, but I didn't know if our electricity would be turned on. We couldn't provide things for our kids, and that was really, really tough.
Stressful.
Very, very stressful. And you can't show that stress because then everyone thinks your business isn't doing well.
Right.
And so I was living a lie, and it was just it was a slow fade of sort of killing you all along the way. And the pressure just got so much. So when I invested in a program, it was more than I had ever paid for anything. And my husband
Yeah.
was like, "Absolutely not." And I said, my mother had died and I got a little bit of money. And I said, "This money was given to me by my mother,
Yeah.
and I'm going to use it for that."
Good for you.
And I stood up and I took the course. And within a few months, he asked me, "What do you want?" And I knew, because my parents passed away, there wasn't enough money. And I don't know if you remember when they tore up downtown Vernon, the street downtown Vernon, but we lost about forty thousand
Oh, actually,
dollars in
Main
3 months.
Street. Yeah.
Main
Yeah.
Street,
Yeah.
yeah, it's our
Yes.
business on Main Street. We lost about $40,000 in that time,
Oh,
and I was just that was more than I could handle.
for
So
sure.
I put some of my money from my mother in that, and then I invested in myself. And I don't think people realize, sometimes how tough it is. I didn't realize, meeting all these challenges. But Bob asked me, "What do you want?" And at the time, I said, "I would like to make a lot of money."
Yeah.
Now, I grew up in a home, a very religious home, where I had stories. Not all religion is like this, but the one that I grew up in, that money is the root of all evil. All rich people are going straight to hell. You can't serve both
Yeah.
God and money. So I had a lot of beliefs about money. I was
Yep.
afraid of it, but I wanted it. And if I asked for it, I was being really not content, and that was wrong.
Yeah.
And
Should be
so,
grateful for the life you have.
yeah,
That
it
meant,
was
yeah.
like,
Mhm.
so as I asked for that, I had a lot of guilt and a lot of bad feelings. And so he said, "Well, what's a lot of money?" And I said, "I don't know." And
Yeah.
he said, "Well, why don't you turn your annual income into your monthly income?" And I went, I just remember my face turned
Yeah.
red and I got very upset. You'd think I'd be really
Oh,
happy, but I got
yeah.
very upset. And I thought, you're just asking me to work harder. I can't
Uh,
work. How can I possibly take an entire year and put it into a month? I'm already working 10 to 12 hours, 3 kids, going in 4 different directions at once. And so I said, "Did you not hear me? This is what I'm doing." And he says, "No, I'm not. Don't worry about the who or the how. Just don't worry about the who or the how, just what would it feel like?"
yeah.
And I was like, I have no idea. He said, "Well, you make about that in a year, 50 grand a year."
Mhm.
He said, "Just what would happen instead of earning it in a year, you earned it in a month." And he said, "I want you to write a story out as if it's happening."
Yeah.
And so he helped me, and I wrote the story as if it was happening. And it was not how it was happening, but as if it was happening. And 2 months later, I turned my annual income into a monthly income here in Vernon.
That's wild.
And it blew me away. And I did it the next month and the next month and the next month, and things began to change rapidly for me. And I could not, how do I explain it to people in Vernon? I couldn't. I had a global business and I started working on a global level,
Yeah.
and I just hid in Vernon. And I became something that I always wanted to be. And uh, there is always a way.
Right.
There's always a way. And this is where mindset started changing for me.
Yeah.
And this is where I turned my life around. Yeah.
I think there is something to be said for, even though you didn't say it, and I won't put words in your mouth, but there's that, who am I to blah,
Who
blah,
am
blah.
I?
So
Absolutely.
being uh, visually promoting yourself or whatever in a small community,
Mm-hmm.
people knew you
They
before.
did. Yeah.
And myself and other people that are trying to
Mm-hmm.
make something better of themselves. So there's the whispers sometimes that get
Yeah.
back to you,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, I just think I'm somebody trying to do something,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think sometimes it's easier globally or out of our small towns,
Yeah.
because we don't have to fight back on that,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
our own busy mind that loves to
Yeah.
point out where the old story, as we talked about
Yeah.
earlier, starts to come in. So I always find that interesting when people say, I actually flourished outside of my hometown.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing to stay on a platform where I'm
Yeah.
talking about community. But community is anything where you're finding and feeling a safe space,
Yeah.
I think. And the internet has brought so much of that.
It has. I also think that this is where you really understand paradigms. Because if
Okay.
people know you a certain way and that's all
Yeah.
you've done and you've hid yourself, first of all, I had to forgive myself for doing that.
Yeah.
I had to forgive myself for placating everyone else so everyone else was happy with me. And I didn't let my light shine myself. And
Right.
it was always in me, but I kept suppressing it, suppressing it, and suppressing it. And that's what I think personal development was learning to live it. Now, I wasn't going to step on people to get there.
Right.
I'd had
Hence
a
the
lot of
network
that.
marketing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had a lot of that
Yeah.
going on. Um, you know, I had to learn to step into my own. And there were times where people would say, "Well, who are you to do that? Aren't you just that sandwich lady?" And I would,
Aw.
I would think, well, yes. And who are you to think so highly of yourself that now you're doing, quantum physics for the mind and, talking about
Yeah,
mindset? And it would be, yeah, yeah, I am.
I am.
And yeah, I started studying and first of all, I found out how to help people. I didn't tell them
Mm,
what I knew. I asked them, what did they want? And then I
love
started
that.
working with them. And I think I began to really love sales. And this is an odd thing because I'll ask people, especially
Yeah.
coaches that come and say, I'd really like some help. The things that coaches ask, I'll ask them is, how do you feel about sales? Oh, I hate sales. I want to share. I want to share with people. Well, sharing,
Giving it away for free is not the dream either,
and
Yeah.
also sharing may not mean that that relates to them. And so I started
Fair.
asking, what is it that you would love? And if I can help you get there, I will.
Right.
But if I can't help you get there, I don't deserve to be paid for that. So it was always, tell me what it is that you want. And I began to get really good at helping people figure out what a goal is.
Right.
There's so many ideas of what goals are. People are just lost in that. And they don't know the difference between a vision and a goal. And they don't know the difference between what my values are. And it's a very complex thing to simplify down into a goal. And so to help people get simple, what is it that they want? First of all, we have a vision of what we want.
Yeah.
And then a vision is like a floodlight.
The
If you're on
wide or
stage,
higher.
yeah, it's wide and it's high and it floods the whole stage. A goal is like a spotlight within the floodlight.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes people don't really know what their vision of their life is, and they go and try and make a goal, and then that goal doesn't fit in their vision.
Right.
But they hear somebody else has a goal. Oh, I'm going to get that goal too. And it's like, how does that fit in your life? So
Or is that just a distraction
Yeah.
away because fear has crept in or whatever?
Yeah.
Because I've seen people do that too,
Yeah.
right? Oh, I've got this goal, but pivot, guilty as charged.
Yeah.
Right? Multi-passionate. That's what,
I have learned I am not one of those coaches that gives you information. That's not me. I'm not that. I'm a high touch coach where I say, this is about you.
Yeah.
How do we help you get what you want? Not what I think you should have, but tell me what it is that you want.
Right.
And I could show you mindset principles to help you bring that into physical form. So it's taking the spiritual to the intellect to the physical.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, I just said this in the last interview. It's that in my little world, we would talk biopsychosocial. And I've always thought it so weird that we never said spiritual.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't understand why we were missing that component.
Yeah.
I think because it's been a part of my life. I joke that Wayne Dyer was my gateway drug, right? Like, I remember sitting and my mom had introduced me to him and one of her good friends, Sherry Ann, and I was nursing my middle baby and looking at watching. It was a PBS special, and just going, why do I not know this?
Yeah.
Like, I grew up in AA, like my dad was AA, my mom was Alateens, Al-Anon, like we heard God a lot and spirit, like, but nobody ever broke it down on how does that apply to me, right? Like, how does this work for me? So,
The natural laws, so I love the natural laws. I call myself a natural laws expert, and I love talking about the natural laws. And the natural laws were here way before philosophy, way before anything was here. The natural laws have been here. It's a part of nature. And nature shows us a lot of how people call the natural laws God's modus operandi. How he, well, I shouldn't say how he, but how the infinite intelligence, universal mind, how all of that is working. There's certain principles that are governed that help us see patterns of frequency and vibration and energy. And when you start really seeing that, you start seeing patterns in people, you start seeing frequencies and vibrations, and you start really feeling them. We have incredible equipment within us that we do not know how to access because we've given it all up for our intellectual mind. And we're actually using the smallest part of our being just by our smarty pants brain. And man, let me tell you, we love being smarty pants.
I was going to say, there's a lot of, let's just get another degree, and then I'll know. But that's
another gold
knowledge.
star. Another gold star. We love all of that kind of stuff. And that's going back again to the natural laws of understanding masculine and feminine energy. We're not talking about male and female. We're talking about masculine, feminine energy. Although I can use the idea of like the sperm and the egg. The sperm is always busy, 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 go, 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 go. And the egg is in receivership.
Right.
And we have been in such masculine energy for a long time, not saying male energy, I'm just saying masculine energy. And now we're learning about feminine energy. And words have no meaning until you put the meaning to it. So the word spirituality for some people means religion.
Right.
Other people mean, it could be the quantum world where you're going into 3 or 4 and 5D, dimensions of thinking possibilities. Other people, imagination. There's so many ideas that are out there, and until you can learn to communicate it with another, to say spirituality can mean all of these things, but for me, the meaning I'm using right now is this, which means you got to know yourself, how you're thinking, and to be able to communicate it and articulate it.
Yeah, I like that.
So the 7 natural laws for me helped me quickly pinpoint frequency and vibration and curiosity about another person and wonder about another person and myself, that I was able to ask more questions, not questioning, but in curiosity. Oh, tell me more about that. And as I began to do it, I began to expand in a way and I just started letting go of things.
Yeah.
We are made for expansion and fuller expression. That's how we are, the curiosity. And
Love it.
It all got started, I think, as we are in our mommy's tummy. Let's just use that as an example. But we had this oneness with another entity, with our mothers. We had that oneness. And when we were born, that oneness was broken. And so whenever we see something that we gravitate towards, we want this oneness with it. And so every time you see something that grabs your attention, you're like, that resonates with me. Something in me resonates. I want to know about it. I want to have an understanding about it. That's our coming back together with oneness. So we have curiosity that causes us to want to have oneness with things. And so that's why we're always made for expansion and fuller expression. We're either moving forward or we're going behind.
Right.
And life is going forward. That is life. It's not, and I think people think life is about a destination, or a goal is about a destination. And I'll tell people the destination for a goal is not the end result of the goal. The destination is the experience of the journey, how you experience things. So, another one of my favorite people is Neil Donald Walsh, and he talks about, he has a book called If Something Changes Everything, Change Everything. And it really is true. When things are changing in your life, you're going to find your frequency or vibration begins to change, and everything begins to change.
Yeah.
So,
and there is a no man's land or a gap or the messy middle or all the ways that I've heard it called. So it's not like you just, and maybe in your teachings it's different, but there is going to be that discomfort. There is going to be resistance. There is going to be those moments of self-doubt and all the things that are going to crop up, which is why I think it's so important to have a coach or a therapist or a professional that understands you, lives in curiosity, is not, telling you to do your homework, but is there with you in the muck, so to speak. But saying, I've already been here. Like, and I love that about your work is, especially you just reiterated it, is you've been there. So when people come to you, you can say confidently, I do understand. And there is this for you waiting.
And I may not understand the exact situation. I may not understand that, nor do I have answers for that. But I can understand the discomfort, and I understand what discomfort means. Most people, when there's discomfort, they're gone.
Out. Drugs, substance, reckless behavior, some stimulus, kill the boredom, you know. And if we only know like chaos, that's the comfort zone. So there is that coming back, which is what I hear in the spiritual side, like that calming, grounding, the words that you were using.
I think it's in the discomfort that emotional intelligence is really you gain access to emotional intelligence. But we tend to avoid the discomfort, and the discomfort is the way through, but people don't know how to sit in it. And if you can understand what the body, what the mind, what the senses and everything are telling you, you can learn to say, okay, this is happening and I'm okay. No one's going to lose an arm or leg. No village is burned down.
Yes.
Not one time have I lost somebody's arm or leg,
Yeah.
but it feels as if it feels like that. And it's like, good, because this is where we're getting to it. We're finally getting to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the most beautiful work you can ever give yourself, is learning this idea of masculine, feminine energy, and learning about the discomfort and learning about the breakthrough and the releasing.
Yeah.
Releasing is learning to surrender and release. So, you know, I was telling you that I have this event coming up.
Mhm.
Is it okay if I talk about that now?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because here we are at 35 minutes already. We're way over. So pitter patter, let's get to what's next in your work.
So,
What are you currently creating, offering, or excited about? Where can people connect with you? Because we're done. Should have had 45 minutes. Yeah.
so one of the biggest teachings that I've learned is this concept called bless and release.
Yeah.
And it is, especially looking back over the year, it's good to do it over a short period of time, but we're going to do it over a year. And I do it every year, and it's so beneficial for my community. And I open it up to people to come and do it with me online. And so you can register at elevateyouinstitute.com.
Okay.
So it's all one big long word, but it's elevateyouinstitute.com. And in there, you can register for Bless and Release, or you can go to my Facebook page. I'm on there, and Instagram as well.
Sure.
And it's a 3-day event, December the 10th through the 12th. It's free. It's 1.5 hours each day. And I'm going to go over this idea of looking back over the year and looking at all the wonderful things and some of the things that were difficult as well. And then we're going to learn about how important it is to release that energy,
Right.
to move on to the next one. There were beautiful gifts, but you got to learn to turn them into beautiful gifts and to be grateful for them and bless them, and then let them go. Take the good pieces with you to continue. They're all good pieces, but to take them with you and recognize it. Yeah.
I think that is a way more powerful thing than New Year's resolutions.
That's right.
Not gonna lie, I've failed miserably at New Year's resolutions. I look back at my journals when I was a teenager. I want to lose a little weight.
Yeah.
I want to be nicer.
Yeah.
I don't want to swear as much. And I think they're still the same. Like more personal development, have better relationships.
Yes.
So look for that, because that would be such a great. So it's December 10th, 11th, 12th.
Yep.
It's an hour and a half. Is there a time, or is this like, can people do it at their own pace?
There is going to be replays, but I would suggest, if you can, take it off.
Live.
I think it's like 11 to 12:30.
Okay.
So it's Pacific Standard Time. So it's really good for that.
Yeah.
But it's probably one of the best gifts you're going to give yourself, is to go through that experience.
That is self-care.
That is
not bubble bath.
No,
that is
that's
self-care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
I love that. Well, we have to wrap it up, but I feel like we could talk. We'll probably do 7 more interviews.
Good. I'd love that.
It's so nice. That's the first time meeting. I mean, obviously I had a lot of Facebook friends in common and had followed your work previously.
Yeah.
And it's just wild how we got connected through Isabel. Thank you, Isabel. So Angie, thank you for bringing your clarity around and your grounded spirituality and your practical wisdom to the conversation today. I do really think the listeners are going to get so much out of this. Yeah. And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in to Happy on Purpose, where we highlight the people in our valley who live with intention, purpose, and heart. I'm Janesse Pearson, and I'll see you next time.